Hello. When I try to communicate, generally, I don't speak, I make films. A few months ago, I met a young man who watched two of my films back to back. And these films are not usually seen that way. Either people are interested in genocide, or in Rwanda, or in transitional justice, and they will watch My Neighbor, My Killer. Or they're interested in Antarctica, or geology, or the process of science, and they will watch Ice People. After watching the films that day, this young man sent me an email in which he said, after watching My Neighbor, My Killer, the only thing I could bear, the only thing I could handle was looking at people thinking in frozen tents. And he added that he thought the films were a good pair. I was thrilled. I was totally thrilled, because even though on the face of it Rwanda and Antarctica have not much to do with each other, in the way I made the films, in the way I approached my relationship to the people I was filming, the films are indeed a pair. As a documentary filmmaker, I have different objectives from the people that I'm filming. I will ask very big, unanswerable questions, and the people I'm filming generally have very basic questions that deal with real life. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I first went to Rwanda 12 years ago. And I went to Rwanda because I wanted to answer a big, unanswerable question, it turns out, which was, how do you live together again after a cataclysm of the magnitude of the genocide? Let me refresh you a little bit on the genocide in Rwanda. In 1994, over 800,000 people were killed in less than 100 days. The particularity of the genocide in Rwanda was that people were hacked to death by killers looking at them in the eyes. And the violence was incredibly intimate. And it also happened in broad daylight. People who were there saw and heard everything. Now, I was going to Rwanda in 1999 because I wanted to, there was an initiative of local justice that was being put into place. And I wanted to be a witness to that. And being emotional because I'm remembering my whole story now as I'm talking to you. And I wanted to be a witness to that. And it turns out that when you go into a place like this and you have big, unanswerable questions, and you confront yourself to the people who have real life and death questions, they want to know who killed their loved ones, what happened exactly, where are the bodies buried. There's a tension between my objective and their objective, and how these things come together. Sometimes there's an alchemy there, which you can't really predict. What happened is that I went there to be a witness, and I ended up being a mediator. And I want to show you a clip from My Neighbor, My Killer.
ahubwo mukwiriye kubabaza bo uko baramenye wenda uko baje bitazaba kwa kundi bitazaba uko badutemyera uko badutemaguye yaba ariko bagarutse se ninde ubizi se
ngo bagarutse kongera gutema se
bazabuze n'iki
kongera gutema n'akazi kabo bazatema soza ko bamazeho so bazaza
ariko nyine ubundi bazatema abantu
bazantera mu rugo bamazeho ibiheko byanjye bazotenegege nyine zosigaye bazaza bavane
bazazimara n'ubundi ni nabo biyandari
baba barakomezaho imiheto bakasigaho bihirika hose bazaza bavane
bazaza bakurikira nanjye ntyoga mwana w'umuhungu
byambabaza
ahubwo giye bimbabaje ikibimbabaje nuko giye bantindiye no mu makoni bantindiye no mu makoni bakanyadagarika sinave
akaboko kanje bazaza bahejuru bajyana
wabankuyeho vuba haba bambyaye
kubareba ni ariko ubwo baza ko abari umuntu usigaye yirikaho bakabasha bakaza kumwica nawe
bakaza bakakwandurura
bazaza bandurure se mbabaje cyane bikeneye
ariko se barabariza iki ngo mubyifashemo gute bibaryoheye gute
abose nasaba bibaza naba
singaba
ndibo babibaza
ngo wararyohewe wumvise ikijyamo
baryohewe bikiza turaryama tugaje uruhihirikaho
nukwihirika nawe
uko Imana yagushigaje ukihirikaho cyo wabona bwije ukaryama wabona
none se baragira ngo bigende gute ahubwo
nibyo nta kundi
uzo kwagira kwagwa neza ibibazo tubazo gusa ngo ni ukubazo gusa reka
Euphrasie, whom you just saw on the right, is one of my favorite people in Gafumba, which is the small village in which I worked all these years. And she's totally right. I was asking white people's questions, big unanswerable questions, and as I said, she was looking for real answers to her immediate questions. A few weeks later, Euphrasie's son, who is also a survivor, came to us while we were filming. He said to us, "Why don't you put us together with our killers, and you'll have an interesting conversation rather than speak to us individually, independently, separately." And I was taken aback by this, and I pondered it for a while. I thought about it, and I thought, can I really do this? And eventually I obliged. Why am I telling you this? Because it's a really fine line to walk to make these kinds of films and to answer, to try to ask these what I call these unanswerable questions, and they create an impossible tension with the people you're filming all the time. Let me give you another example. After at that point in Rwanda, I realized that it was a very fine line to walk, and it was very difficult. There was a lot of pressure on my shoulders because I thought it was an enormous responsibility. So I decided to go to Antarctica for release. In the same way that the young man who had seen my films back to back thought that Antarctica had been a release for him, it was in fact a release for me when I made the film. So I went there, and in Antarctica, I thought it was all going to be easy and simple, and it turns out that the same big unanswerable questions created tensions with the people I was filming. They were scientists. They were looking for hard geological truths. They wanted to know, in a nutshell, when Antarctica had frozen. And I was there, and I was asking them questions about the nature of the scientific process, what motivated them, what drove them to be there. And it was very interesting to me to find myself in a situation where, in fact, the same ethical problems of the big unanswerable questions, with the tension, with the questions that people were asking themselves in the real world right there and right then. Let me show you an excerpt from Ice People. It's actually the trailer.
We do not come to Antarctica because we are in love with Antarctica. We come to Antarctica because we want a mystery to solve and we want a challenge. And there's one here.
We have 7 souls, 3 from Whiskey 218 and 4 from Golf 063.
To be in a place which is so underexplored and to have the opportunity of making that discovery is pretty powerful medicine for a geologist.
Films are a very emotional medium. We've talked a lot about emotion today, and as a filmmaker, at least in the kind of filmmaking that I engage, I try to ask these big questions because I think they allow us they allow me to harvest images and sounds that create emotion for you, the audience. That they create the emotions I harvest. Out of them emerges layers of complexity and nuance that I find are very important to convey, and hopefully, in this emotional alchemy that is created in the films that I make, and between myself and the protagonists of the films, and then between the films and the audience, which is the continuation of the process, hopefully we create a space together where we can sort of reflect on our place in the world in a more interesting way. Thank you.